Okay. All right. I'm not doing anything.
We're back on.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the CBS special Uncle Tim Wants You.
Yes, that was with Bernadette Peters, and in those days, I think if you had a television show on the air, or it was a great period for variety. So whoever was in variety or whoever could do variety usually ended up with either a special or a show. So that was one of them. Uncle Tim Wants You was kind of a military structured thing where we were talking about the old days and over there and World War One and Two, and Bernadette did a lot of military numbers and things like that. And that was kind of successful, actually.
You also appeared in a few other series. You did Ron Martin's Laugh-In.
Mm-hmm.
Was that before or after Turn On?
That was before Turn On, yes. Nothing was after Turn On. Yeah, and Dick Martin and I are still very, very good friends. We've kept a relationship all through these years. That was a fun show to do because you never knew, you just did little pieces. You never knew where it was going to be placed or how it was going to be interjected into the show itself. So a lot of times you just came up with stuff that they'd take a shot of you walking across the room, and the next thing you know, it was part of the show in something else. So it was an unusual show to do. A lot of fun too. Great cast, obviously.
The Flip Wilson show?
Flip was great too. I did quite a few of those. Yeah, he was a great character to work with, and great guests on his show too. I mean, Cosby and Richard Pryor were some of the outstanding guests that he used to have. As I say, variety in those days, there were probably a couple of dozen variety shows on at the same time.
Now, when you were doing these variety shows, would you be able to write your own material for most of them?
Most of the time, I wrote my own material, yeah, especially for the Hollywood Palace and any other show that really was hiring you as an act. I never did Ed Sullivan, but that kind of thing, if you went on that show, you really brought your own stuff.
What is your writing process?
I try to think of something that's familiar, that people are familiar with, pick a subject and then do something on it. For instance, protective containers for pills nowadays, where the top is on that you actually can't get off. Many people have actually passed away with the medication in their hand because they can't get the top off. And all you need to do is think of something like that and then expand it. And here's a guy now who's going to show you how to take these off, and he can't, and it's that kind of thing. So picking something that's familiar to people and then repositioning it somewhere else and presenting it to people and have them say, I got a brother who did that. You can't believe it, So that's basically what I do.
Would most of it be written, or?
Yeah, most of it, yeah. I think you need to have, something to guide you through these things,
You also did quite a few feature films during the 70s, including The Apple Dumpling Gang.
With Don Knotts. Yeah, that was the first time I actually got to work with Don on a lengthy basis. As I said, I think if I'm in the business, it's because of Don Knotts, because his character of Barney Fife, I mean, that's an icon in the business. And the opportunity, McHale's Navy was on at the same time as the Mayberry show. The Andy Griffith Show. So we were always up against each other for Emmys and things like that. Don always won, and well, he should. But that character such wonderful facial expressions and body expressions, and he just was a marvelous character to watch. And so then getting an opportunity to work with him at Disney was great because we both had the same approach to comedy, and I never threw anything at him that didn't stick or come back in the right direction. He just is unbelievably talented.
The Shaggy DA.
Shaggy DA was an opportunity to work with a huge dog, angry dog. that was nice about Disney because you would go into wardrobe and then meet your animal because you normally were working with one. Yeah, that, and then I got to do a huge pie fight in that picture. And it's always interesting to do a pie fight in a picture because people think even though it's just one pie or it's only lasts a minute on screen, it can last as much as 3 days, because once you start throwing those pies, then you stop and you pick it up the next day and stop, and then we got to continue here. And so when you get your first pie, which is a real pie, cherry pie and whipped cream and the pie plate and the pastry and everything, and then that all goes down your shirt, and the whipped cream starts to smell like puke under the lights after about 5 minutes. So you get to stay in that for 3 days. So you come in the morning after the first day, and the guy said, we have to pick it up where we started yesterday, so we have to match that. So they hit you with another pie while you're sitting in the chair, and you go, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm really going to kill somebody. So even if you take it off for lunch, when you come back, another pie in the face. So you sit there for 3 days with this stuff going down your shirt, and you're just, no wonder actors punch people. It's really. Then in that particular movie too, I also got to go drive a car, and we accidentally get into a body painting shop, so they paint me orange. And then, of course, I had to go through a mattress factory and got, in the pillow part of it, feathers all over me. So now I have cherry pie, orange paint, and all of these feathers all over me. And now that goes on another 3 days. So you come in the morning, they spray you orange and put the feathers on you and put the pie back. And in the dog, since the dog had to be played at times by a midget, so there's a midget inside a dog outfit, we're riding down the street one day at 3 o'clock in the morning, shooting a late shot because it was a night shot, and the midget in the dog outfit is driving the bike. I'm on the handlebars with the cherry pie, the orange paint, and the feathers, and the guy driving the bike couldn't see, so I'm pushing the hair back out of his eyes, and the director said, hold it. He said, I don't know whether that would be logical or not, if you would really, comb the hair out of the dog's eyes. And I said, logic? Let me ask you something. I'm painted orange, covered with cherry pie and feathers, riding on a bicycle with a midget in a dog outfit at 3 in the morning. I said, does that sound logical to you? So we did the shot with it.
You wrote The $1 Billion Hobo.
Yes. I wrote quite a few movies, actually. The $1 Billion Hobo was with Chuck McCann. No, that was just with myself. Yeah, that was, an inexpensive picture that Lang Elliott brought to me, and was about a dog that was being kidnapped, and I wrote that in conjunction with another writer. Yeah, that was the first independent movie that we had made. And it did fairly well, actually. All of these things now seem to do better now than they did at the time, because now there's so many other ways to have outlets for these things. And since it was a G-rated picture, now it's, kids that don't have an opportunity to see G material anymore have an opportunity for their parents to buy things like that. And so they're becoming popular again.
In 1983, you starred in Ace Crawford Private Eye.
Yes, that went. It went from where you used to do 30 shows a year to 13 shows a year, and then it got down to where it's 6 shows a year. They give you an opportunity. We did 5 shows, and it was canceled out of the 6. So my license plate, which read 13 weeks, I had reduced to 6 weeks, and I'll be down to a news break now.
What was that show about?
It was about a half hour, but I want to tell you, it was about a detective, a stupid detective, who knew nothing about what was going on around him, and it also was, again, I was the head guy, and I wasn't comfortable as that. I would have been much more comfortable as the second guy in that show, but they thought that maybe that would work, and I guess I proved them wrong.
Let's talk about Dorf. How did that character come about for you?
Harvey and I were doing a show for CBS, and we were doing a takeoff on Fantasy Island, and I was doing Hervé, and I had shoes on my knees, and I said, if you put a hole in the floor here, I could actually stand in the hole, put the shoes on my knees, it would look like I'm actually standing on the ground. Could do some unusual moves, and so in stage 33 at CBS, I dug a hole, and put my feet in it, and we did that. And you'll see Bob Barker once in a while when he's crossing the stage. I go, he steps in the hole once in a while. It's the way it goes.
Describe the character.
Well, it's kind of a takeoff on Tudball. It's the same voice. I used the same voice with it, but he could have been anything. He could have been a golf player or whatever you wanted him to do. And the very short guy. And just the unusual moves that you could do with those shoes on your knees in that hole.
Why do you think the character is so popular?
Well, it started out as just being so silly. The golf thing was the big thing for Dorf. We took it to a golf course and buried me all over the course. And people who are familiar with golf know some of the pitfalls of golf. And we portrayed all of those. And it got to be kind of a very popular tape that took off at the time. And everybody seemed to know the character from that tape. So I just continued to do it.
What other specials did you do?
Well, I did 7 Dorf tapes. I wrote a couple of movies for Don Knotts and I, The Private Eyes and The Prize Fighter, and wrote a movie for Harvey and I called The Long Shot. I found writing came very easy. The 2 movies that I did for Don and I, one took me 2 days to write, and the other one took me a little longer. I think it was 2.5 days. But it's just as fast as I could type, and I don't type very fast. But that's so. But if you take into consideration what you're talking about, in the Prize Fighter, I was going to become the champion. Don was going to be my trainer. Gangsters were going to be involved, so it's going to be a setup in the fight. So all you need is that information and Don Knotts, and it practically writes itself. And the other detective thing were 2 dumb detectives trying to solve a murder that was obvious to people, and we were about killed during it, that kind of thing. So when you write that kind of movie, it just writes itself, and especially writing for Don. When I got through writing the movie for Don, I noticed that I probably only had about 12 lines because I was writing everything for Don because I knew how hysterical he can be and what had to be done. So I had to drop in a few for me.
In 1990, you hosted Tim Conway's Funny America.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that.
Yeah, we went around to different cities, and I would be in disguise and would go up to people on the street. It was kind of like Candid Camera. And we started a thing called, I don't know where we were, in Denver or someplace, where the fashion patrol, where I would go up to people and say, excuse me, the combination doesn't work. You have a check shirt, striped pants on, and we'd like to give you a ticket. And I would write out a thing, and I was in a uniform and things like that. And somebody reported me as a nutcase on the street doing this. So and I know that in this truck over here, they're filming it, but people don't know. So a police car pulls up, and 2 guys get out, and they're serious about the fact that they would like to see, could you just put your hands over your head and things like that. No, I'm in between going, this is going to be really good for the camera. However, I could be killed. So it's kind of playing between the cops and, or just, and I finally had to tell them we were on camera. But it's funny, in those situations, you don't know which way to go. This could be hysterical, and then you get killed. But it was that kind of thing where you annoyed people.
Let's talk about some of the guest appearances you've made on series. Newhart.
Mm-hmm. Bob's a very close friend. I see him once a week still. Bob, as a matter of fact, and Dick Martin and Mike Connors, and we, old guys get together and talk about life and everything. But Bob is also, when The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart came out, the album, it was the funniest album that had come out on a comedy routine ever. I mean, everybody's house you went to, they said, did you hear? And they put it on, and you'd sit and you'd listen to it, and he became a gigantic star, and he is one of the nicest guys in the business too. So when he got series work and things like that, we kind of hooked up from time to time. He'd do my show, I do his, exchange things like that. But very, very funny guy.
Married with children.
Yeah, that was kind of unusual to be married with children because, again, with the characters that I play, so angelic, that it was unusual to be involved with a show that, did a little tightrope walking there with what was, in and what you could get away with. And I was cousin Ephraim, and I was a relation to the family. And again, a funny opportunity to do a funny role within the context of something where I didn't belong.
Had you watched the show before you did?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love the show. Yeah, it was funny.
Coach.
Coach, I was doing a variety show, and Craig T. Nelson was a writer on the show at the time, along with Barry Levinson and Rudy DeLuca. And they also entertained on the show. So I had known Craig a long time, and when he was doing Coach, he invited me to do a show. I was the gardener, and I said, okay, that'd be great. And I kind of contributed a little bit of the physical stuff to it, and I won an Emmy for it. And so every time I do a show for Craig, I don't do it unless I know I'm going to win an Emmy.
Cosby.
Cos is very unusual guy. I mean, he is so generous. He is so likable. He's having a good time in life. Has had a good time. He is, without a doubt, one of the funniest people in a live concert that you will ever run into. He loves entertaining people. He loves to be on stage for as long as you will sit there. He'll sit there and entertain you. He just, marvelous guy to know. I'm very happy with that relationship. Ellen, again, too, she, and now with this new success of her show, nobody more deserving. She is kind. Again, I would say that she is about as close to a Carol Burnett as you can come, because she too is generous in what she does with a performer. It's none of this, it's all me, hey, let's direct things here. She's willing to share, she is kind, she's loving, she is fun, she's very successful. Clueless was another unusual show. It's great characters in it and really wacky storylines and things like that. And I played a kind of a chemist or a shop teacher who screws up, which is very unusual for me to do. But again, and then working for Henry Winkler, who was the producer of that show. Henry was the one who had done Tim Conway's Funny America. So whenever Henry calls, I'm there, because he's also another fun-loving guy in this business.
How is he as a producer?
He's great. He has great command of things and knows exactly what he wants, willing to listen to what the performer says, because he's an actor. So he knows that, I just don't want to direct you coming through this. What would you like to do? And accepts a lot of things.
Mad About You.
Mad About You. I only did one, but I loved the show, so I was totally familiar with it and had an opportunity to actually marry them, as a priest or a minister on the show. And that was another fun show.
Do you have a favorite guest appearance that you've done over the years?
Well, I think that, it'd have to be the Burnett Show, because I guested for 10 years. I was almost a regular on the 11th year. But I think that was my most favorite, because first of all, I would most of the time bring my own material and have an opportunity to work either with Carol or with Harvey during the show, plus do some outstanding sketches that were written by the show, an opportunity to do that kind of variety and play characters and things. So, I would have to say that the Burnett Show was obviously the best show to guest on.
What was your favorite piece that you wrote for the Burnett Show?
I think the dentist sketch was one of them. I used to write a lot of the old men things. Harvey and I wrote one time as a quick change artist, and I was the guy in charge of quick changing him. Go figure. And I got hung up on a rack. They had a laundry rack where I got hung up on that. And actually, they couldn't stop the laundry. For some reason, it got out of whack. It just kept going around, and they kept most of it on it. I mean, we would just do lines as I would go by, and couldn't stop this thing. And that turned out to be a rather amusing thing. And one I did where I was a fireman, that I came in and had to give Harvey mouth-to-mouth resuscitation as the old man. So there was some moments there.
Now, were you in the writer's room for the Carol Burnett Show?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a writer. We actually all won an Emmy one year for writing. Yeah, so I won actually 4 Emmys on the Burnett Show, 3 for entertaining and 1 for writing.
As a writer, what was the atmosphere in that room?
Well, it wasn't, everybody wasn't in one room. You'd come in for like a meeting, and then guys would throw around an idea, and they'd say, well, what if the guy didn't, and somebody would say, geez, I think I could write that. Okay, you're out of here. You go write. And then you'd be kind of assigned something. I wasn't really actually in that pool. I normally would bring in a piece, and then I would just sit in on the meetings and, you know, do other little things on the side or contribute to something that was being done.
Who would usually run the meetings?
Joe Hamilton, who is the producer of the show. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a few summing up questions
Yes.
before we end the interview. The first one is, what are your current projects?
My current project is to enjoy life. Harvey and I are out running around the country with a kind of a variety show. We do about 6 different sketches and some characters that people are familiar with, and a whole variety show, which we've been doing now. This is going into our 6th year. So we go out about every other weekend, if not every weekend, and go to different cities and casinos and things like that and entertain. So that takes up a great deal of the time. I do Yes Dear, which I love. That show, I like the characters on it, and I like the people on it, and I like the fact that they don't stick around till 3 in the morning trying to make something funny that's not. I mean, they do it and get out.
Now, what is your role on that show?
Vicki Lawrence is a mother, and I am a father of one of the children on the show, and we come and annoy people about every 6 or 7 weeks. So it's fun. It really is.
How is it working with Vicki Lawrence again after all these
Oh,
years?
great. It's, yeah, there's no question about the fact that we could probably fire the whole thing up again in a matter of moments. You know, if Carol ever said, I think we're going to do this again, I don't think we would skip a beat.
Would you want to do it?
Only if we did it the way we did it. You know, if somebody had enough trust in us to know that it was going to be funny the way we were going to do it, I would. But I think nowadays we have 4 or 5 producers and 6 or 8 assistant producers and all of that, and 84 writers and things, and everybody wants to hear their line. Just the fun goes out of it. You have to have fun in order to do it the way we did it.
How important is it for you to continue working?
It gives me something to do. You know, I enjoy entertaining. And it also gives me a chance to go to places that I normally wouldn't have an opportunity to go to, and to meet people. You know, the audience is the people who put us where we are today, and an opportunity to go out and have some fun with them and get an opportunity to talk to a few people and entertain is fine. You know, I enjoy it. I really do. It's not a hardship. You know, if it were a hardship, I don't think I'd be doing it.
How has fame affected you over the years?
I don't think it really has. You know, I don't. You know, the character that you play on television kind of dictates what an audience will do for you. If you're John Wayne, or you're a tough guy, or you're Clint Eastwood, people want to punch you. You know, because they figure, well, I punch this guy, I could say I punched John Wayne. But when you're a comedian, or you do fun-loving things on television, people treat you as that person. And nobody says Mr. Conway. They say, Tim, hey, how you doing? God, I love you with the thing. And so you make immediate friendships with people, and that's nice to enjoy people who have seen you in the past.
What kind of things do people say to you when they tell you?
They are very familiar with, you know, Tim, how you going? What are you doing in town? Or what's like that. You know, people say, can I have your autograph? And I give them an autograph, and I said, you know, in one case I said, this is the best one I've ever done. Would you mind very much if I kept this one? And Leigh said no, so I kept the autograph. And so she's somewhere saying to people, you know, I had his autograph, but it was the best one he ever did. And he kept it, and people are going, you got to be nuts. So you can, you know, you stay in touch with people.
What advice would you give to an aspiring comedian?
I wish I had advice. People have often asked me that. Everybody gets into the business in a different manner. I fell into it. I had no intentions of really doing this. And so I didn't take the route of working in little theaters for $4 a week or anything like that. But I think if anybody wants to get in this business, the best thing to do is to be prepared. You must, when you may only have one opportunity in your entire life to be better than everybody else in a room or on stage or whatever, and that's the time that you have to be better than anybody else in order for people to notice you. So The preparation for it is playing little theater, getting up in front of people, doing whatever you have to do. If it's juggling, you just juggle all day long or whatever. And when somebody calls on you and says, let me see that act, then you're better than anybody else, and it'll happen for you.
You have a philosophy of comedy?
I enjoy it. I really do. I would rather be humorous than anything else. And I don't annoy people with it. I don't pull chairs out from under people and things like that. But I love to sit down and talk with people and enjoy a good, humorous situation.
What do you think has been the highlight of your career?
Well, probably, people would, as far as your career, and that excludes my family and everything, I think that's obvious what comes first. Uh, the opportunity not only to meet some of the great stars in this business, but to work with them and then actually to become friends with them and have a social relationship with them, I think as a kid, I used to sit and watch these people on screen and say, I didn't want to be on screen, but I wanted to do what those people did to an audience. I wanted to make them happy or cry or do whatever they were doing on the screen to people. And to have that opportunity to do it, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Any career regrets?
Not really. No, I don't think I'd change a minute. I wouldn't change a minute of my life. A minute of my life, I really wouldn't. Personally or professionally, I really don't. There isn't anything I can say. I turned that down, which I did a lot of things, and say, oh God, that became successful, and I wish I would. Really, none of that. I've done what I wanted to do. The failures have been just as funny as the successes. So there isn't anything that I would say, gee, I wish I would have or could have.
How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, I think maybe with a smile. I don't think there's any great shakes about what I've done that people got to say, that let's go visit the grave again. But I would, and this life you never leave because now we have tape and everything else, audio and everything. So if you do want to visit somebody again, all you got to do is go buy a tape or punch it up or whatever, what they're doing with this. So you're never really actually gone. And if you want to revisit, there's an opportunity to do it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much.